Welcome to Dadograms Weekend Reminder. I learned how brainwashing works during military training after I earned my wings as a Navy pilot. It wasn't taught as theory or an abstract idea, it was taught as a survival skill. The lesson was simple. If you don't understand how influence works, you are far more vulnerable to it than you realize. And every system we studied began with the same way, with isolation. In POW camps, prisoners weren't broken all at once. The first move was separation. They were cut off from one another so they couldn't compare experiences, reinforce reality, and steady themselves through shared understanding. Once those connections were weakened, the ground underneath their beliefs started to shift. What the studies found was sobering. The prisoners most susceptible to brainwashing were not necessarily weaker or less brave. They were often the ones who lacked education and who lacked strong personal connections. Now, when I say uneducated, I'm not talking about not getting a degree or something. I'm talking about critical thinking here. They had never really been forced to think through what they believed and why they believed it. Without that internal framework, their minds were far easier to reshape under pressure. And when it came to connection, many of these men had weak family ties. Many grew up without a father figure, without people who depended on them, and without a deep sense of being known or needed. Even among their fellow POWs, some remained isolated. So without a strong internal foundation and without real relationships to reinforce it, their thinking could be reshaped. Isolation helped make that possible. There was another lesson. When some prisoners began siding with the enemy, the instinct was to turn on them completely. But that only pushed them further toward their captors. When lines of communication were kept open, when engagement continued instead of total rejection, some of those men could be brought back. Connection mattered. Today, nobody has to lock you in a cell to brainwash you. Isolation happens naturally, by staring into our screens, taking in information streams that narrow what people see and hear over time. As that narrowing continues, disagreement starts to feel threatening, questions feel dangerous, and cutting people off feels justified. Given how disconnected many people are from their own families today, and how easily people fall into ideological echo chambers without questioning what they hear, a lot of brainwashing happens without people ever realizing it. That's a reality we're dealing with in our homes today. The defense is the same now as it has always been. Stay connected. Maintain relationships with people who think differently than you do. Seek out opposing views, not to abandon your beliefs, but to strengthen them with honest testing. Isolation makes people fragile. Connection makes them resilient. And resilience is the enemy of brainwashing. If you want to learn more, go back and watch Dadogram 20, where I go through the entire story and tell you just how dangerous it is for all of us in these very difficult times. I'm Jason M. Garrett, and this has been your Dadogram Weekend Reminder.